if the only time we get together is in the boardroom, we're not going to be successful. Find a mentor. Find a group of people that they can sit and talk to that are more experienced than them.
Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward here in Dallas, Texas, TexED Con 2023. I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez. I'm here with Westwood ISD Superintendent, the one, the only, Wade Stanford. How you doing, Wade?
Man, I am doing fantastic. I'm blessed to be here with you today.
So I want to give you a shout out real quick. Finalist for Superintendent of the Year.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend actually won, Dr. Z from Tomball, but
unbelievable choice. I think they, she does some amazing things in Tomball. So just proud of her. She's well deserving of that recognition.
She said the same exact thing about you because when I was saying, hey, you and Wade will be up there, she goes, yeah, he's great. Like he needs to win too and I said, well, one of y'all will get the award. One of y'all split it.
Yeah.
But just talk about that. Is it how did that feel? And as a coach, I know you're going to defer to your team, but how did it feel?
So I would say that if I step back and just look at it, and I'm going to look at it from two different lenses. I'm going to look at it from a personal lens, and I'll look at it from a team lens. I think that I've completed 7 years in Westwood, starting my 8th year, and so it's really satisfying from a personal standpoint. We don't look at that a lot, but I think the reality is that's the truth.
Sure.
So it's satisfying because there was a vision when I came in, and it was one of the drivers for moving out of the assistant superintendent role and into a superintendent role. Was to create that culture, to try to do some things that I felt like were possible, and so I think that's the fruit of that work.
Sure.
And but then I think when you look at it from a team standpoint, I think it just speaks to the piece that I talked about, and I still remember this and get emotional about it in 2016 when I introduced myself to the staff, and because of some division and some things that I knew that were going on in the district, I had small group meetings versus one big large group to introduce myself. I went to each single campus and talked to them specifically for that campus. And I talked to them about being a part of something larger than themselves, being a part of something that left an impact and a legacy. And so I think when we look at awards and recognitions, then I think it speaks directly to that piece that when you empower people, you value people, and you get out of their way and let them do their jobs, that great things happen, and people have this desire to be a part of something huge, something that's bigger than what they can create by themselves. And so I think it speaks to that. The process, quite honestly, we even talked about this backstage yesterday, that it was more involved and more strenuous and more stressful than any of us thought it would be, because there's like the regional level. You do a regional interview, and then you go and you interview at the state level, and then we're fortunate to be in the 5 finalists. Then there's another interview at that point, and I think when you start thinking about the stress level, and that competitor part does come out,
of course,
that you start to feel the weight of what you're carrying. At the regional level, it was just you. You just went and you competed, and you did the interview. And when they announced, it was all great, and we were all smiles. And then you realized, now I'm carrying the weight of the district at a state level, and then I'm carrying the weight of the region at a state level. And then when you get to that 5, then you're literally carrying that weight of the district, the weight of the region, and then what I felt was trying to represent small schools in a large competition.
Yes.
And so then you start to feel that, and it starts to become a driver. But it was a cool process, and I think it just speaks volumes about our district and the work that we're doing in our district.
Your board is obviously in the fight with you, in the grind with you. When y'all come to events like this, how do y'all reconnect or spend some time just being together and working as a team?
Yeah, so I think that's a neat part, and I think it's a part that as superintendents we've got to think about because we meet in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And we do official business in the boardroom. But events like this are I think are crucial to what I think we sometimes just refer to as team of 8. So I think it's vital for that team of 8. So it's getting in and being together, eating dinner together. So we were at dinner together last night. There was a table that 3 of our board members were able to come to this event. The others had work and different things that just kept them from getting here. And so 3 were able to come. 2 of them had their spouses. My spouse was there. We had another central office staff member, administrator, had his spouse there. Had another central office administrator there that wasn't able to bring the spouse. And then had our communications specialist there. And that table was full. We actually had to drag up chairs from another table because everybody wanted to sit together. And I think that speaks volumes when they said, no, let's get enough chairs to the table and let's squeeze in to get together. And so the Pfluger Architects was the one that put the dinner on last night. And so I was visiting with them this morning and they said, man, when we went by y'all's table, y'all were having so much fun. There was so much laughter, and the stories that y'all were telling were just unbelievable. And so I think that's what we do. And I think that our board president, Carolyn Booker, who served nearly 30 years on the Westwood ISD board, says it well when she says, if the only time we get together is in the boardroom, we're not going to be successful. And so I think you have to get together. You have to break bread together. You have to sit and have conversations together. And we were able to share about different sessions that they went to and what they saw were important and things. So I think there's that bonding and that team building, and then just the piece that I don't know what everybody else's relationships are like with their team of 8, but board members were giving administrators a hard time, and administrators were giving board members a hard time, and just laughing about things.
That's the best scenario you can ask for, is when you feel comfortable enough to poke fun and bring up old stuff that's funny.
And here's the I think the really cool part, Rick, is that when I sat down with our board, there's not a board member, not one of the 7 were in the interview process when I was hired.
Really?
Really.
I did not know that.
Yeah, not a one of them was involved in the interview process. So our board has changed.
Sure.
And it wasn't through controversy. It's just people had served and said, my time's up. And then and we've only had one election in 7 years. And so you think about that. We've had an entire change of our board, but only one election because typically only one person ran or they appointed somebody or whatever. But I think that when you look at that, I think that says a lot about team also.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like when you change coaching staffs, or you got transfers, or there's new blood and new ideas, and the best coaches can unify regardless of circumstance.
Right.
So I mean, that speaks a lot. I mean, I don't want to embarrass you, but that speaks a lot about your leadership, that you were able to understand that and see that and help that process.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I think it has to be intentional.
No doubt.
And I think you have to be inclusive, and you have to listen, and you have to understand people, and you have to understand that everybody has differences, but we have to find common ground. And I'm so proud of our board in the fact that we constantly talk about what's in the best interest of students. And that doesn't mean that egos and personalities and their personal desires, my personal desires, don't get in the way sometimes.
Sure.
But in the end, everybody steps back and says, what's best for kids?
Absolutely. A lot of discussion about accountability, A through F, all that stuff going on.
Really? I hadn't heard a thing about that. Wow.
When you have good things going on in growth, and yet that there's the possibility that districts and teachers and students are going to be told, well, your grade doesn't it's not as good as it was, or there's a chance of you falling. How do you keep the team, the staff, the kids centered on, let's not worry about that. If we're growing, we're doing the right things. Kids are happy. Parents are happy with what we're providing students. That's the main thing.
Yeah. And I think the easy answer would be say, well, I just tell them not to worry about it. But
Yeah.
And I do that. But here's the reality that people are human,
Right.
and they have fear. And no matter how much we say, don't worry about that, an accountability system that we have in the state of Texas, A through F, and a STAR test that was redesigned, and our Commissioner of Education broke 3 laws in the process because he didn't do things in a timely manner. We have a test that was done last year, which he still has not released the standards and the measures in which that test would be evaluated, which he was supposed to have done that last year before the schools were evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
Then that is an artificial number.
Yeah.
But it does tell a student you're good or you're bad. And you're labeling a student and you're labeling a teacher. So I think, number one, as a district, we joined in the accountability lawsuit.
So I had Sissy on the show yesterday,
Yeah.
and we talked about it, and she's very appreciative of everybody that's that supported her.
So we jumped in that, and I think that, again, speaks to our board. They're very supportive of that. I visited with them, and they were like, let's do it. Mm-hmm. And so we voted to get in that. We've talked to our board about the accountability system as it is today and what we're understanding and what projected numbers and what they could look like.
Sure.
And this was their response to us in a board meeting. And I'm gonna talk a little bit after I say what they said. They looked and they said, okay, so what? Those are artificial numbers. We don't care. Now, what they do care about is learning. They do care about our students being successful. They do care about us making progress.
Right.
But they're not going to allow us to be defined by what the state says is the accountability system. And so I think I take that message to our teachers, and I talk to our teachers. Just matter of fact, what is today? Today's Saturday. So I guess it was Wednesday. I was in a meeting with some teachers, and I told our teachers that exact story, that our board said that, and you could just see the relief on their faces.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, no matter how many times you tell teachers it doesn't make any difference, no matter how many times you tell teachers your job doesn't depend on that, they still believe that it does. And I don't blame them, because you just do. And so I think that you have to do that. And I think another piece that we're looking at is we're looking at developing a community-based accountability measure for our district, in which our community will decide what is important for our community, and then we'll build out a rubric from that, and then we will get measured by that rubric, and then when the state decides whatever they want to do, we will put our own accountability out and say, this is what our district believes in.
This is our value system. This is what we want our kids to have.
Right.
I love that. I mean, that's, there's a lot of speculation on why this and why there's some decisions being made. But at the end of the day, you can't, if you hamstring your educators in public education, it's going to be real hard for us to stay the leader in business in the state that, I mean, how do you do that?
You can't. Yeah. You can't. And yeah. So I'm fixing to go.
Yeah,
just go off on a rant, and you'd lose. You would lose people when I start ranting. So
that's all right. And speaking of teachers, if you're giving some advice to the young administrators, either a new principal or a new superintendent, in this situation, or where we are, where educators, they're hard to come by. How do you retain your great ones? What's the most important pieces to keeping your best in your district?
Yeah, so I think number one, what I would tell a new administrator, even a new teacher, is find a mentor. Find somebody that can pour into them, whether that's somebody within the district or somebody outside the district, to find a mentor, to find a coach, find somebody that can pour into them. find a group of people that they can sit and talk to that are more experienced than them. We typically gravitate to people about the same experience level,
Yeah.
and we start asking them, how do we do whatever we're challenged in? And they know no more than we know.
Yeah.
And so it's not real good advice
I'm
a lot of
laughing because
times.
I've done
Yeah.
that multiple times.
Yeah. So it's not real good advice. So you go and you seek out
Yeah.
people that have more wisdom, that have more experiences and have failed more often, that know what doesn't work.
Sure.
So we have eliminated a lot of things through our past, and so I think that's number one. And then I think the next thing that I would say is find your why. Find your big why, because I think when our why is big enough, then our challenges become smaller. When we lose sight of our why, our challenges become huge. And so we have to keep looking at that. And this is a time that that we need strong leaders. We need people that are convicted. And I think that piece leads us into, we really have to discover who we are as a leader. We have to understand what our values are, what drives us, and why we're doing this. And I think when we can figure that piece out, then we get convicted and we know what fights to fight.
Yeah.
Because we can't fight every single fight. I can't fight all the fights. But the accountability lawsuit, that's one I'm ready to fight. Like I'm ready.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to figure out who they are. They have to understand what their convictions are, what their values are, and then they have to be ready to buckle up every single day and get after it, because our kids deserve it, and it's hard, and there's an attack going on public education
Like nothing we've ever
it's
seen.
never seen before. Nothing, and it is orchestrated beyond belief. And so I think you have to decide what you want to fight for, and then you have to decide why you want to fight, because then that allows you to stay in that fight.
With all of that and some of the turmoil, there's still a lot of great things happening.
Oh my gosh, yes.
What's over the horizon for Westwood?
Yeah. So, and you talk about the great things that are happening. I'm gonna brag on our district just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. That we visit with our staff a lot about what are their challenges, what are the barriers, what are the things. I did a session, did some things last spring where I called them listening sessions, where I invited teachers in, and I said, okay, what's causing people to leave the profession, Westwood specifically, and as a group statewide. And so they shared with me. And so we started working on that. So we're working on student behaviors, we're working on parent behaviors, we're working on communications, we're working on a lot of different things. One of the other things they said was, a lot of our staff don't have anywhere for their kids to go that are too young for school.
Yeah.
So we started looking at a daycare for our staff. And my staff tells this story because they say, working with Wade's a lot of fun, because he walks in the office and he goes, hey, we need to do this, and then turns around and walks out, and we've got to figure out how we're going to do this. And so in April, somewhere around April-ish or May, I walked in and I said, hey, we need to get a daycare stood up for our staff. And people told us it couldn't be done. They said it's going to take you a year to get a license, to get it licensed. We've got to find the space. We found the space. They said, well, we're going to have to renovate the space. We renovated the space. We got with our construction company, got with our architects that were working on another project, said this is outside the scope. This is a whole nother deal. This is what I need.
Yeah.
And this is the time frame I need it. I said, okay. And they said, okay. And so we did that in April or May. And August the 16th, we had 12 of our staff member kids in a daycare that we're paying half of the cost.
Nice.
For our staff. And our food service director the other day said in the celebration, it feels so great to be able to drop my kids off right beside my office.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
Knowing that they're safe, knowing they're secure, and knowing that people love on them. And that's developing a partnership with the YMCA. That's hiring a director of our early learning center. And so that's an example of some stuff. In October of last year, we hired a director of safety, I think is what we called him, because we couldn't call him a chief of police because we didn't have a police department. So it was in October. In November, right before we got out from Thanksgiving, we got notice that we had an official police department. And today we have 5 officers hired. And so every single campus has a police officer, one from the Dallas Police Department, one from the Houston Police Department, one from the Arlington Police Department, and 2 that have served as SROs on campuses. We probably have the most experienced police department in a school system in East Texas and maybe in the state.
That's awesome.
And so every single campus has an armed police officer and a chief that patrols. And so then when we start thinking what's next, today I was at the special session, or at the general session. I don't know if you had a chance to go or not. Okay?
I've seen, yes, it's
okay.
great.
So I watched Aldine perform and LaTanya's group perform, and it was unbelievable. So I'm sitting there watching that, and I'm going, okay, that's a huge district, but why can't that happen in my district? And so now I'm dreaming, and I actually videoed the mariachi band, and I texted my campus principals as they're performing, and I said, get ready for this to come to Westwood. And so I think it's looking and exploring in the fine arts and the opportunities and the courses of what a small district can offer that a large district is offering, so that my students can compete on that same stage that those kids are competing on.
I love it. So now it has to happen because you're on the hook.
I just said it, man. When you speak it, it's going to happen.
That's right.
I can tell you that my principals have not responded to me, but I know they open it up.
They're all going, "Hey, man, what did you? What?
Yeah. What's this dude at? Why don't anybody let him go to another conference?" And but no, I think when we start looking, I do think the community-based accountability is a big deal that's coming.
Yes.
I know that, and I will say that our board is very aggressive right now. We have a healthy fund balance, and so they are pushing for us to build a new central office, to build a true daycare, to renovate our baseball field, and then then next after that to build a new transportation building and maintenance building, and then to move the softball field and the tennis courts to develop a spring sports complex. That's just what I can think of right now.
Well, if they're ready to get going, hey man, let loose.
Well, the only thing that's holding us up is architects can't get the drawings done. So the architects are working on all of that, and we're trying to get pricing because things have inflated so much. But we're trying to get that pricing, and then spending some time here looking at creative ways to budget things.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Wade, I don't want to take up any more time. I know you're a busy man, but I always
we got a presentation here at 3:00 today. So yeah.
Well, let me let you get prepared for that. But God bless you, man, for doing what you're doing and serving Westwood and all the things that are happening there, and your kids, your board members, and thank you for sending what you do every day. Don't think that goes unnoticed.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
There's been many a time where it's just and somebody need to hear it. A lot of times that was me in that moment. So
most of the time it's me before it's you.
You told me that it may be something that you have gone through or either are going through, and it just resonates. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me on. It's always a blast. I look forward to this.
You good?
It fills my cup when I come. Seriously, I'm being dead serious. It fills my cup when I come on here because we get to talk and I get to start thinking, and you inspire me. And I appreciate it. I do.
No, hey, well, so you're agreeing to midwinter in a few months, right?
You bet. Yes, sir. I'm on there.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, sir.
Produced by Podcast Architects.